Hi, I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading, and this is a beautifully engraved 1849 Colt Pocket Percussion Revolver. This revolver was manufactured in 1853 and has stunning Germanic scroll and floral engraving on the barrel, loading lever, frame, hammer, trigger guard, and backstrap. The engraving is most likely executed by John Marr. The engraving closely matches the engraving on examples attributed to Marr on pages 73 and 77 of Colt Factory Engravers of the 19th Century by Herbert Houze. The barrel has a small brass cone front sight and Sam L. Colt hand inscribed on the top. The cylinder has the stagecoach hold-up scene and a 3 marked perpendicular to the serial number. Matching serial numbers are found on the loading lever, wedge, arbor pin, cylinder, barrel, frame, trigger guard, and back strap. The revolver comes in a fitted mahogany case with brass dual cavity mold without sprue cutter, L-shaped screwdriver and nipple wrench, cap tin, and a small eagle powder flask. The barrel on this pistol is 5 inches long and measures at 31 caliber. I have to say, Colt revolvers aren't my forte, but when I saw this in the upcoming Rock Island auction here, I just had to take a look. I'm a huge fan of this era engraving. When you go into the mid-19th century and then the later half of the 19th century, you really have the best of the best firearms engravers working during this time period. And while this engraver might not be as noted as somebody like Nimsky, the engraving on this revolver is just delicate, it's beautiful. It's exactly what I come to expect from a mid-19th century pistol or firearms engraving. Holding it in the hand, this is kind of the subcompact revolver for the era. This is a muzzleloading revolver, so we don't have any cartridge conversion on this cylinder. We have the open strap cylinder here. We have our loading lever on the bottom of the barrel, which really indicates this is a muzzle-loading percussion pistol. You see later revolving pistols that went through cartridge conversions still have their loading arm, but they have a cartridge cylinder that is not present on this model. Just a beautiful little pistol. While it's still small, it fits well in the hand. It's kind of a little iron, we'll say. I'd like to go over the engraving on this revolver kind of section by section to give you a little bit of a detail into what a highly decorated revolver from this period would look like. Starting with the back strap of the revolver, kind of coming off of the action area of the pistol along the back of the grip, we have what we call the back strap. This is screwed in with 2 flathead screws kind of into the main body of the revolver, and it has 1 screw on the bottom of this backstrap section. So this is 1 single metal piece coming around the grip here. On the butt, we have 71591 hand stamped or engraved there. And even the screw on this bottom section has a little bit of engraving on it, which I think is a beautiful touch. And that really kind of sets the engraving of just about any firearm apart from other engraving. If you have somebody that is paying for the screws to be engraved on a firearm of any era, you know there's a little extra money going into that. Across the butt here, we just have 3 simple scrolls here with a couple off-shooting scrolls. These are shaded, so these aren't just primary lines cut in here. We have these scrolls, at least the bottom 2, separated through cut lines from the kind of the background, we'll say, of the engraving. Around the screw, we have just kind of a nice nick border and the matching serial number there stamped just below the screw. Now as we come up to the primary section of the back strap here, the center has a wave engraving pattern. We have 2 scrolls at the bottom and kind of a half moon or a crescent border there separating it from the butt of the pistol. Up at the top of the back strap, we have kind of reflecting Germanic scrolls here, 2 scrolls going down the back strap. And we have a shell pattern here at the top of the back strap as we go into the action. When looking at the hammer in the down position, we see a couple Germanic scrolls on either side. We have some scales at the top, and we have our typical checkered hammer up here to give us a better grip. The back of the hammer doesn't feature any engraving, but it's kind of a working end. You don't really see that a whole lot. However, when we take the hammer up to half cock, you can see the full sides of this hammer here, and we have kind of a sea serpent style face here. So we have a beautiful cut eye, a nostril, a mouth, kind of like a hound dog where you have a little bit of a jowl there cut in with a shadow. And we have these really elegant kind of side ear fins cut into the side of this hammer here to give this a little character. So when you see it closed, you can notice the scales on the top and you think, okay, that's kind of naval, kind of oceany, that's kind of neat. But when you bring it back and you see the sea monster face there, it gets really neat. It gets a little personality, I think, in otherwise, pretty standard scroll and floral patterns. Gives a little character. Behind our cylinder here, and the rest of the action really coming up to halfway up the barrel is just filled with beautiful scrolls and flowers. The scrolls begin to emanate off of our rear screw, wrapping around, and then kind of flowing with the rest of the screws on our action here, as it kind of flows around Colt's patent as that is cut into the frame and goes up to the front, kind of towards the muzzle of our cylinders here before the scrolls terminate. And this matches pretty well on either side. I'm not going to say that they are mirrored images here, just because we have some differences with those screws, but they are very similar on either side. I'd say our right-hand side features a couple more flowers, at least towards the rear of the frame. Opposite our primary screw head here towards the rear, we have a beautiful star cut into that screw, making it kind of the center of a flower surrounded by petals. Coming forward to our barrel and our loading arm, we have a replication of those sea monster fins here at the base of the front of the barrel assembly here. Kind of beautifully flowing off the cut scrolls that again kind of emanate out of our screws here at the front of the barrel. These patterns are just beautiful. I mean, there's an art to laying out these kind of scrolls. And I'm not saying that this is a stellar or a beautiful or a wonderful example of this engraving, but I think it is a great example of it. I mean, it's pretty standard. It's what you see on a lot of highly engraved arms from this era, and this one does just as much justice as any, I would say. Again, our scrolls aren't cut in a total relief, but they are separated from the background through some cut lines and shade lines, we'll say, to differentiate the highs and the lows of the assembly. Across the top here, we have some simpler scrolls and the Sam L. Colt named in here, kind of another mark of this being Colt. Our right-hand side of the barrel assembly really is similar to that of the other side. The only difference really being kind of the shape and makeup of the floral patterns that kind of fill in the spaces between the Germanic scroll engraving. Our loading arm is also done up here. Our flat side faces have a beautiful flower on either side around our screw here, and then Germanic scrolls flowing and patterning out from that screw area. Not much of a sight picture on this pistol. We have kind of a bead front sight here, and like many Colt revolvers from this era, we don't have a rear sight until our hammer is back into our full cock position, giving us a full sight picture as we look down the sights. The action and the cycling of the cylinder still works well. We have those beautiful revolving clicks as the cylinder advances. Not a super heavy trigger on this, which I think is interesting, being kind of a self-defense style revolver. Just nice, just crisp. There's nothing gummy about this at all. I just love doing that. The cylinder itself is not engraved. We do have the roll stamp stagecoach pattern here. So it is a little bit of a contrast between the crisp cut, really high contrast engraving on the frame versus the roll stamp cylinder. But really the picture as we rotate this cylinder here is very crisp compared to some that I've seen. Sometimes these cylinders get really worn out and it's hard to tell that what picture is there, but you can still see it very well here, especially when you rotate it in the light. If the pistol wasn't neat enough, we kind of have a period box included with this pistol. I don't know that this is an original box and accoutrements for this pistol, but I know that they are the style that you could find from this era. What I found particularly neat, I like weird little tools that come with muzzleloaders. We have this neat little right-angled screwdriver and nipple wrench included with this pistol. So we have a pretty long screwdriver end there, you can see, to give you a little bit of leverage when you're using this as your nipple wrench back here. Just a really simple tool, but well designed and purpose driven there. I like seeing stuff like that. We do have a projectile mold in this here. This is a brass mold, common and popular in this era. Again, don't know that this was associated with this pistol at manufacture, but when opening this up here, you can see we have a round ball and a conical mold here in this same mold, which is really neat. Pocket molds and bag molds kind of like this are very common, dating back for a very, very early period. And it's neat to see one in the percussion pistol era that features both the round ball and the conical. Again, 31 caliber, so just below 32. And I think a modern contemporary recreation of this pistol would be in a 32 caliber. Here at the front of the box, we have a neat cap box here. Inside, we do have some percussion caps. The label of this cap tin says Ely Brothers. I believe it says 250 metal-lined caps made expressly for Colt's patent belt and pocket pistols, manufacturers in London. It's a neat piece of history. I love seeing those labels in there. The last thing in this box here is this beautiful little Eagle powder flask. Not a whole lot of powder being carried in here, but you don't need a whole lot for a small caliber revolver like this one. No maker's mark or name on here, but many of these powder flasks are documented. So I encourage you take a screenshot of some of the up close pictures that we're going to show you here of this eagle motif that's on either side of this flask, and I'm sure that we can find a maker online. All in all, again, I'm not a Colt expert, I'm not a Colt historian, but I do like seeing these highly decorated, engraved Colt revolvers, really from any era. It represents, and still represents even today, a dynamic shift for firearms manufacturing, and I hope that you've enjoyed this little look today at this 1849 Colt Pocket Percussion Pistol. I'd like to thank the Rock Island Auction Company for allowing me to show you this beautiful piece of work. If you'd like to learn more about this or any of the other items we're looking at here today, I encourage you to visit the Rock Island Auction Company social media pages. Once again, I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.